Welcome to our new global media talk show. Today, we have our guest here, Malick Jallow. To talk about Malick Jallow's Foundation for Children, built on Prerogative of Mercy. Malick, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Can
Thank
you?
you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Sawaneh. I wish the volume can be louder. I can barely hear you. But yes, thank you. Thank you very much for hosting me and for your request to have me on your program today. As you rightly pointed out, I am lawyer Malick Jallow, and I am the founder, president of the Malick Jallow Foundation for Children. And that's the capacity that I'm actually participating in this program. So my participation is courtesy of the foundation. I would like to say a very warm welcome and send very warm greetings to yourself, your team, and everyone who is following us. Thank you.
Thank you. Without wasting any further, I would like you to give you the opportunity to briefly tell us about who you are and what is your area of work, and then tell us a little bit about the foundation, the inside of the foundation, so I could have other questions to ask and make comments as well.
Yeah, well, the foundation is a charitable foundation, the Malick Jallow Foundation for Children. Yeah, it has been in existence since 2013, I believe, 2013. Initially, it was called the Institute for the Advancement of Children's Rights, and later we changed the name to Malick Jallow Foundation for Children. And the core mandate of the foundation is actually to provide pro bono legal services to children in conflict with the law, but also to help address some of the root causes as to why children actually get into conflict with the law in the first place. So there is a reactive dimension to the mandate, but there is also a proactive dimension to the mandate. And through these entry points, we engage in research and publication, we engage in awareness raising, and we engage in legal representation and litigation where appropriate as well. So I guess it is within the rubric of research and publication and helping with law reform that we got involved in this Prerogative of Mercy Bill, which I believe is the narrow context in which we are engaging upon this evening. So in a nutshell, that's what the foundation does. That's the core mandate of the foundation. And since our inception, we have been engaged in a lot of activities. We have provided training for police prosecutors and investigators. We have provided training for judicial officers. We have provided training for civil society. We have engaged in research and publication. In fact, very soon we're going to publish a research document on female genital mutilation. And then we have also provided pro bono legal aid and legal representation for a number of children who otherwise would have gone unrepresented before a court of law. So in a nutshell, this is the foundation and this is what we do.
Very good. So as I can see, the foundation is about empowerment, about giving legal empowerment, legal advices, and of course training legal folks who gonna probably become someone tomorrow to help the community and so forth. So tell me, I know you are the founder of the foundation, so tell me what make you come with such an idea or such a great initiative.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. That's a good question. I remember I was working. I think I had just returned to the Gambia after working with the ICC, the International Criminal Court at The Hague. And so I had just returned to the Gambia and took up employment with the Institute for Human Rights and Development in Africa, which is based in Gambia here, otherwise called the IHRDA, a leading human rights NGO in the continent. And I remember we had this program. Wherein I believe the Canadian embassy in Dakar had provided funds for the IHRDA to provide pro bono legal services to children in conflict with the law. This was born out of the realization that there were so many children at that time who were languishing in remand because their parents or guardians could not afford the services of a lawyer. And their situation was made more precarious by the fact that under the Children's Act of the Gambia, 2005, a child cannot appear in court without legal representation. A child who is in conflict with the law or who is charged with an offense, we call them ACO, alleged child offender, cannot appear in court without a lawyer. So it led to a situation wherein if you come from a background that is not affluent or that lacks the financial wherewithal to pay for the services of a lawyer, and you are charged with an offense as a child, I mean, your case keeps on languishing for sometimes an indeterminate period of time until you can get a lawyer. And at that time, yes, there was the National Agency for Legal Aid, but they also had very serious capacity and resource constraints. So IHRDA decided to chip in, and I believe provided legal representation or arranged and sponsored legal representation for around 20 indigent children in conflict with the law. And it was quite a success story. Lawyers were hired, paid a token amount, not legal fees per se, a token amount, and then they took up these cases and did them to completion. But once we were done with that, there was no further provision for it to continue or for it to be an ongoing initiative, because naturally when donors give money for projects, these projects are time bound. So I got the inspiration that, wow, this is such a wonderful idea, this is such a wonderful initiative. Instead of just allowing it to go away like that, I'm sure we can have it as a permanent feature in our domestic civil society space. Because at that time, there was no civil society entity or organization that was devoted or focused solely on the issue of child justice. So I decided to come up with the idea, decided to register this foundation. And in the initial stages, we were quite instrumental in providing pro bono legal representation for children in conflict with the law. And then as time went by, of course, NALA started gaining strength and then also gaining greater capacity as well as an increase in their resources docket. And to their credit, over time, they were able to take up many, if not all, of these cases involving children in conflict with the law. That allowed us, of course, as a foundation, to not only now focus on the issue of legal representation, but to also look at other aspects of the child justice system, such as capacity building for stakeholding institutions, research and publication, etc., that are just as important. Because it is one thing providing legal representation, but it's another thing trying to build a preventive strategy to avoid children getting into conflict with the law in the first place. And there can seldom be a greater useful entry point for that than trying to build the capacity of the individuals who work with or work for children.
Wonderful. Now, so the initiative is geared towards the children. Do you have also representation for adults, adolescents, or any other group of demography?
Yeah, no. Actually, our mandate is very narrow and it's restricted to children. So this is why, because we can't do everything. So this is why the core mandate of the foundation is what I've just outlined to you. So whenever we receive any request for assistance or any request for support, we have to look at it within the context of that mandate. If it falls within the mandate, we go for it if we can. But if it falls outside of the mandate, we could direct the individual to a more appropriate organization, entity, or institution that is perhaps better placed to be of assistance.
So far, since inception. Which year you said you started the foundation?
Sorry, come again. I can hardly hear you.
Which year was this, did this foundation
This,
started?
this foundation started since 2013. Started since 2013.
Okay. And then so far, I'm pretty sure you have helped a lot of children with the conflict of the law.
Sorry, I
So
can hardly hear you, Mr. Sawaneh. Audibility
uh,
is a big
can you
challenge from this
can
end.
you
Yeah.
can you my volume is higher. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It's better now. Yes.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, since 2013, it's almost 12 years now. How would you say you are doing as an organization? Have you been have you been progressing with with your initiative, or are you having some challenges?
But well, there is bound to be challenges in every setup or every initiative, especially when it's civil society. So it cannot be all rosy. But by and large, I think steady progress has been made, not just by the foundation, but by other stakeholding institutions in the child justice system, including the government. For example, now within the judiciary, you have more specialized courts for children. There's greater recognition for privacy and for other factors that are geared towards preventing secondary victimization. I believe at the executive level of the government also, more resources are being directed towards child justice, towards child welfare, towards promotion and protection of the rights of the child. And then you also have more NGOs and charitable organizations coming up, directed towards and promoting and protecting the welfare of the child. Of course, one would like to see some reform in the existing laws that provide for child justice. We have made recommendations with respect to the Children's Act of 2005. We believe it can be improved, and recommendations have been made. It has taken much longer than we anticipated, but I believe with time, if those recommendations are adopted and the necessary changes in the law are made and the necessary reform is done, then we would be even more closer to realizing our dreams of having a world-class child justice system.
Perfect. Now, when you come to support, where are your support system coming from?
Well, sometimes in Gambia here, individuals, I tend to get the impression that they believe you need a lot of money to run a foundation or an NGO. But our experience is different. Our experience is different because we adopt a very collaborative approach to our activities. I'll give you an example. When we provided training for police, prosecutors, and investigators, I remember then, I believe it was the former IGP, Sanyang, I think he was then commissioner for admin, was very cooperative and supportive. So we told them, look, we are going to provide the resources. We have the lawyers. None of them is going to charge. They're coming pro bono in the name of the foundation. They will run the training. They will provide the training. So you provide refreshment and transport for your people. And then UTG gave us a venue free of charge. So before you realize it, you don't even need to pull out any extra money for anything, because everybody has just shared part of the responsibility, and there you go. So that's the approach we tend to favor by and large. So when we collaborate with institutions, when we partner with institutions, when we want to build the capacity of institutions, we actually get them to chip in. We come with the technical expertise and with the human resource, of course. But then when it comes to logistics, when it comes to refreshment, when it comes to venue, we tend to try to get them on board to take responsibility for those things. This is important. This is important because collaboration is key in this business, from my experience, especially from a civil society perspective.
Very good. So what is in there for this collaborators, what do you think they're getting back from chipping in and
Sorry, I
assisting
can
you?
hardly hear you, Mr. Sawaneh. Again, I've lost you.
Yeah, what is it that the collaborators are getting back in return from this collaboration?
What they're getting back in return is, if you are the police, you get your people trained. Their capacity is built. If your police prosecutors and investigators are trained on the child justice system, they go back hopefully with greater capacity, hopefully with greater knowledge, and hopefully with greater impetus to actually have that knowledge, expertise, and exposure reflected in the work that they do with children and for children. So there's a direct ripple effect, I believe.
Great, great, great. How is the government support system towards this initiative?
Sorry?
How is the government supporting you on this initiative?
No, they do. They do. The government, whenever we have had any course to approach the government, the reception has always been very good. The reception has been very good. Reception has been very good. Whether it's the level of at the Ministry of Interior, whether it's the Ministry for Children's Affairs, whether it's the law enforcement agencies, whether it's at the ministry in charge of justice, in some cases, the level of collaboration has been good. We have never had any cause to be in a situation where we feel that our work is being held back by the government, or that we are not getting support from the government. No, that has not been the case.
Perfect. Do you have any way of expanding this to other capacities beyond what you have right now?
Yeah, yes, we would love to, but then again, when we created this foundation, we did not want it to be a classic NGO in the conventional sense per se. We just wanted it because all of us involved in it have our, if you like, bread and butter callings that occupy us on a day-to-day basis. So
Right.
this is something we wanted to have by the side, so that whenever time permits us, we'll just get to work, see what we can do for a community that I believe has given us so much. So it's a duty to give something back, to the community. And that is one of the greater motivations why I created this foundation, as an entry point to engage with the community, but also as an entry point to help alleviate some of the challenges faced by the community as far as possible. And there is no better way than preparing children, whom we often call the future leaders of tomorrow, but whom we also often fail to realize that future leaders of tomorrow need to be prepared today. They need to be prepared today. We should not just expect miracles. We have to prepare them today. And an excellent way of doing that is to help them stay out of trouble. And if and when they get into trouble, is to provide them with the requisite legal representation to make sure that not only not that they will be punished, but that the target of the juvenile justice system or the child justice system is usually rehabilitation and reintegration, which is important, because at that age, the perception is that, certainly from my angle, they are not fully matured or developed to fully appreciate the ramifications of the things that they do or sometimes fail to do. So this is why in child justice, when children come into conflict with the law and when they are charged, interesting as it may sound, but such children are still considered to be victims of circumstances, if you may call them.
Yeah. Wonderful. Usually here, this kind of service, we call them pro bono legal services, if I would say.
Yes.
Usually they are services that are given based on the capacity of a family member, what they can input and so forth. And sometimes we call them legal aid. Sometimes we call them different way, names. Right. So is this the only kind of entities that are doing this work in the Gambia, or you have other entities doing this work?
No, well, as far as child justice is concerned, I don't know of any organization that is specifically focused on child justice, but you have many NGOs and foundations that focus on the protection and promotion of the rights of the child. A plethora of them, so I don't think we're in isolation with respect to this initiative, but we're certainly unique, if you like, if that's the right word, in terms of our specific area of focus, which is the child justice system.
Now, since Gambia is culturally bounded and religiously we are a strong believer of upbringing our children in certain ways. When you talk about child justice, are you looking at child abuses, or are you looking at situations where disciplining a child could be considered as being a child abuse? Do you have conflicts like that when you come to like defending these children?
No, when it comes to areas like, because I know I can give you an example, we were quite instrumental with respect to championing the crusade against FGM, against child marriage, etc., etc. So we do that as an activism tool, and whenever we can, we support any legislative initiative or law reform initiative to actually help alleviate some of those harmful traditional practices. But that is as far as we go. So we are not, it's not part of our core mandate to actually seek enforcement of the laws pertaining to that per se, but it can be construed as part of our general mandate. So, but in terms of our general mandate, we try not to stretch ourselves too far, because there are other specialist foundations or organizations or civil society engines that are devoted to that type of work. So whenever we can provide support to them, but whenever we can also provide support to any initiative, legislative initiative or law reform initiative towards that angle. But we try to restrict ourselves to what our constitution says, that is providing pro bono legal services to children in conflict with the law, and helping address some of the root causes to why children get into conflict with the law.
Are you looking into thinking of creating some kind of rehabilitation for some of these children who are in conflict with the law, who were poorly guided, who don't have the proper parenting?
Yeah. We have tried to do that. In fact, we have provided support for the child shelter. There's a shelter in Bakote. We provided support for them. We have provided support to children at the juvenile prisons in Joswang, for example. Like I said, the driving force behind the child justice system is actually rehabilitation and reintegration, as opposed to punishment. Because those children come into conflict with the law because they have gaps in their characters. And now we have a duty as adults and as experts to actually help them address those shortcomings, so that as and when they are released into society again, they will be able to take their rightful and responsible roles as future leaders of tomorrow.
Perfect. I'm pretty sure you guys are doing an awesome job in that area. Some of the children being in conflict with the law, mostly in the Gambia, probably would have to either be a single coming from a single family, a single parent, household, or perhaps abandoned children, or perhaps children being been what do you call it, been forced, not forced, but been ignored within the community. Have you seen a huge number of children participating, getting in trouble based on those areas, or these are just common accidents? Children being in conflict with the law just by common accident, or probably that's a pattern of things like not proper parenting.
No, there is a pattern. There is a pattern, of course, because such children tend to be children who would normally have a problem with drugs or substance abuse, There would also be children who are normally not enrolled in school or perhaps irregular in terms of their education. So they tend to be not gainfully occupied. And as the saying goes, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So if a child is occupied going to school as they should, and being educated within the community and at the home, the chances of them running into conflict with the law is fundamentally diminished. So yes, you're quite right. There is a pattern respect to the type of children who come into conflict with the law. They tend to be children with issues pertaining to drugs or substance abuse. They tend to be children who are either poorly educated or who are not even educated at all, who are not going to school at all. They also tend to be children who come from indigent backgrounds. But sometimes also you see some of these children from supposedly affluent families as well, because it can work both ways. Some of these children, they can be lulled into a false sense of security that, okay, my father is wealthy or my mother is wealthy. I don't really have to care that much about life. Everything is set for me. So they tend to go on a reckless rampage. So it's a mixed bag.
Wonderful. So since you spoke about drugs, and drugs has been lately been an issue in our country, because we've seen tons of drugs, that are coming and disappearing within the nation. Is your rehabilitation process, or does that have something to address re-educating or probably highlighting awareness in that area of drugs use or drug abuse?
No, where rehabilitation, there is an entity at the driving seat when it comes to that. I believe that's the Department of Social Welfare, and when it involves drugs, I'm sure they will collaborate with the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency of the Gambia. So we can provide a supporting role, and when it comes to issues like that, again, we would tend to focus on providing technical expertise or assistance if required, if requested, or if desired, to help strengthen the legal instruments. But I don't think when it comes to the issue of drug abuse, there is much wrong with the legal instruments in the Gambia. I think what is needed, sensitization, you can say that, awareness raising, you can say that, but I believe the greater solution can be found in changing our social habits. Changing our social habits is important. It is very, very important. Gambia is a close-knit society. I know back in the days when you are so unfortunate to get involved into some of these things, drug abuse, etc., you're literally hiding it from everybody. You would be scared to death for the next person after you to know that you are involved in that. But now it's done in the open. It's done in the open with no remorse whatsoever. And I believe that speaks volumes with respect to how far we have actually departed from our core values and moral ideals. But we are not stricto sensu a rehabilitation entity. That is not part of our mandate. But we can support any initiative geared towards that. We can support any initiative geared towards strengthening legal instruments to make such a rehabilitation drive flourish.
Perfect. Do you have the cooperation of the parents in this? Do you think the co-parents are seeing this as potentially a game changer, or do you think like they are reluctant in helping these children?
Yeah. Well. When we were quite active in legal representation, of course, you will get the cooperation of the parent, because it will be very important for a parent who is having difficulty paying legal fees for a lawyer to represent the child who is in conflict with the law and who would not come before court unless there is a lawyer present to represent him. It appeals to a parent to know that there is an entity or there are lawyers out there who would come and do this job free of charge, pro bono, and not charge you a single penny. So in such instances, cooperation is always forthcoming, always
Always
forthcoming.
there.
Yes,
Okay.
always forthcoming, always forthcoming.
When is the cooperation not forthcoming?
But then again, you have because you have to manage expectations. Sometimes somebody would hear that there's a foundation for children. Okay, after doing the core work that you're supposed to do, some people will start asking, do you also pay school fees, or can you can you help my child go to Europe or go abroad? So you also have to be very frank and very honest and candid to them about your limits and tell them, no, we don't put money in the pockets of private individuals. What we do is we give you our technical expertise, we give you our exposure, we give you our knowledge and representation as lawyers to help your child stay out of trouble. So managing expectations is also quite important. It's quite important.
Perfect. Because I know, like that's the nature of a mankind or womankind. Once you give them something, they they want more.
They want
So
more. Yes, naturally. Yes.
yes.
Naturally.
So that is our nature. Now, overall, the foundation is really a unique foundation. As I keep asking these questions, and as you keep answering them, it looks like the initiative is worth commending,
Thank you.
because kids our future. We all know that without children, the future, there's no hope. And then to have better life for them is a key, crucial. So, and I know we can all relate to this, because I grew up in a village, and I know how things can go wrong, especially when it comes to kids doing things, children doing things out of reason, out of not reasoning, because they are children. So they might make a mistake, they might hurt somebody, they might steal from somebody. All these things are things that actually has to do with maturity. So having to have a representation for them is key, because that could correct their mistakes. And even if they need to face punishment, as long as they are not repeated offenders, that punishment could also be turned into another way. Instead of like physically punishing them, you can punish them in rehabilitation format. Keep them for a little bit, and then try to re-educate them again. Like create some kind of awareness how to get better, because that mentorship and that guidance, probably they're not that's what they are lacking, especially if they come from a single family home. And I'm pretty sure there are some single family homes. It's increasingly growing with this whole Western influences. We have seen, a lot of marriage, getting ended, that were not happening in the past. So there's a lot of things happening, society, and especially with the Western influence, and especially with the violence going on in the country, security issues and so forth. So this foundation, I think, could serve, really as a very good tool to help, correct the errors, and then empowering our children for the future. So really, really, it's a really commendable initiative. I just wanted to say, since you guys are limited, because again, you have to have a focus, you know, do you think somebody, perhaps could take this to another level by representing other unfortunate people in the community that are not children?
Oh yes. I because I wear double hats. I'm at the foundation, but also I have my own law firm in Banjul. I'm a practicing lawyer, so I do provide pro bono legal services to individuals who would otherwise fall outside the mandate of the foundation. And I know a good number of lawyers who also do the same thing. So lawyers in Gambia, by and large, are providing pro bono. You have other entities that also provide specialist pro bono legal services, like for women, for example. And then you have few lawyers who have a proven track record of providing pro bono legal services here in the country. So it is possible that sometimes an individual might fall outside of the mandate of the foundation, but I may well decide to take your case up and represent you free of charge. Now, not under the umbrella of the foundation, but under the umbrella of my law firm.
Okay. Yeah, I think that need to be known out there as well, because there are some people who are not they are not under the category of being children, being a child, but they are they're helpless in terms of when it comes to legal assistance. And I don't think Gambia has this system, or that they have this group of lawyers called legal aids that will jump into your defense. Because if you look here,
we do actually. Sorry, we do. There is a national agency for legal aid, but as you would imagine, Gambia is a developing country, so they usually don't have the capacity to provide legal aid for all the individuals who require or need it. So that's where the role of the private bar comes in, to try and complement their efforts. And that's where a foundation like ours also come in to try and complement their efforts. But there exists a national agency for legal aid.
Okay. But they don't have the capacity to help all.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So that's the capacity we need to build, especially, looking at here in the system in the West. If you are an immigrant, you come even without a paper, you don't have any documentation, but as long as you are a human being, you need some type of representation if you cannot afford it. So I will encourage, since you are in the system, if that could be expanded to the point that that could be readily available to help even those who are in the country who are not citizens or so, because that is what we call human rights. I mean, giving everybody equal, some kind of access to be able to defend themselves and to be able to get a fair trial or fair
hearing, certainly.
in the system. Yeah,
certainly. I do agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So now, since you are the champion again, you're doing an awesome job, and I have to double commend you. I commended you before, but I will have to reinforce it, because children are our future, and children are everything. So, when it comes to children, or who are you usually serving most? Is it the boys or the girls in this kind of representation?
No, well, children is general. Children is general. It involves all children. We don't segregate or discriminate between the girl child or the boy child.
What I'm saying, based on your encounters, who are the vast majority?
Yeah. No. The boy, when it comes to conflict with the law, I think the boys are the troublesome ones.
The boys are the more easy. I figured that out. Yeah.
I can't even remember. A scenario wherein we had to provide legal representation for a girl alleged child offender. I can't remember. It's
wow.
usually the boys.
The boys. So we have to do better. We have to do better raising our not raising our kids, but we have to keep
boys.
an eye.
Yes. Well, sometimes I know it's almost a stereotype to blame parents for these things, but sometimes I believe there is more to it than that. I think you can have very responsible parents, you can have very hands-on parents, but then there are external factors as well. There are external factors because you are part of a broader community who also have a moral stake, moral responsibility in your upbringing. So these are also factors that can affect the disposition of a child.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so in a nutshell, I think what you are doing really, you might consider it in a small scale, but it's bigger than what it appears. Because if you save one child's soul from making mistakes, and that child become better, it might be even looked at as even better for that child to make that mistake in order to get better or become the best at what he's going to be doing. So sometimes mandinka iko ning kuro be nila kairo tema aike. That means if there is If there need to be like a harm between you and your good, let that harm be happening so that you can get to the good. So,
Yes.
in a nutshell, this program is even more, I mean, like it's even very valuable because it could make even somebody better than where they're supposed to be because of what they've made the errors, and then you guys have corrected the situation, and you guys have put them through rehabilitation, and then they have learned, and now they have learned they can even go and teach others how to become like better person in the community. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, yes, it does. It does. It resonates very well. It resonates very well and quite strongly. I agree with you.
Yeah. All right. So that being said, those are some of the questions I have. My partners Usman and then Sam are not able to join, and Famara, but I will allow you to give us your final overview of this great initiative that you found, and then of course what would be your last words to our audience?
But yeah, well, uh, I think what is the most recent and perhaps most active activity we have right now on the table is that you probably would have seen it in the news. We are presently supporting the introduction of a private member's bill on the prerogative of mercy in the Gambia. We have done this in collaboration with Honorable Alajimbo, who is a National Assembly member, but it is very much an initiative of the foundation. I remember coming up with this idea during one of our meetings because there was a huge outcry at the time. The president had actually granted pardon to certain individuals, and it was realized that one of the individuals granted pardon was actually a convicted, I believe, pedophile of some sorts. So there was a huge outcry, and rightly so, that there could be more deserving individuals of that pardon than such an individual. As a child rights foundation, of course, we took very strong interest in that. We brought out a public statement. We engaged the relevant authorities at the highest levels. But then we also ask ourselves, I mean, yes, there is prerogative of mercy provided for in the Constitution. It's a power vested on the president, a legitimate power. No one can dispute that. All over the world, a head of state and a president always has that facility to pardon. But we said perhaps the president could be further strengthened by making sure that we have a specific legislation to address this issue of how to exercise the prerogative of mercy, so that there is greater transparency, there is greater certainty, and there is greater consistency in the way and manner it is exercised. So one of our board members, because our board members are quite diverse, we have people from Nigeria, we have people from Kenya, we have people from the US, from Norway, etc., etc. So I spoke to our board member from Kenya, Colin Situma, who is a lawyer, a settled lawyer in Kenya, and he did tell us that yes, in Kenya they do have it, they have prerogative of mercy, but they also have a specific legislation, because the provisions in the Constitution are just quite very succinct, but are not detailed at all. So we wanted a detailed legislation, act of parliament, to put flesh in the dry bones of the constitutional provisions, if you like. So that is how the idea of coming up with a prerogative of mercy bill came into play. We said, okay, we are not parliamentarians, we are not in parliament, so it makes sense to partner with a member of parliament. And that's how we reached out to Alaji Bo, whom I knew because I taught him constitutional law at the university, and I saw him as an exposed, upright, and principled individual. And we approached him and mentioned the idea to him, and he accepted it, and we decided to work together. Looked at how it was done in Kenya, used that as a template to provide a starting point, and then Alaji put in vigorous and tireless efforts in this process. He also did a broad-based consultation, engaged the Ministry of Justice, engaged the Attorney General, So we were able to come up with a draft bill that we all looked at, exchanged views and concerns, and finalized it. And last week, it was formally introduced into Parliament. The first reading was actually held in Parliament. So this is quite a development. This is quite a development. And all thanks, of course, go to the foundation, but also goes to Alaji, our partner, goes to the Ministry of Justice, who also supported this process, and indeed to all the other stakeholding institutions who have played a part. So now we're hoping that this bill would now go through. We have to win hearts and minds, of course, at the Parliament. It's not a foregone conclusion that once it is in Parliament, it's going to go through. But we believe it ought to have a very good chance of success, because it is not contentious, it is not controversial, and it is aimed at empowering the president in serving the public good, and in exercising a quite fundamental function of the constitutional function of the presidency. So this is a very recent development. So from now onwards, of course, as an entity, as a foundation, we cannot present a bill in Parliament. Alaji would take care of that angle, but we can provide technical expertise, we can provide awareness raising, we can provide research and guidance where needed, within and outside of Parliament, to make sure that the process goes through smoothly, but also goes through successfully. And again, it's a classic example of how civil society can collaborate with legislators and indeed the executive to effect positive change, in terms of legislation, but also in terms of law reform.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that's a great initiative, and then that's the great thing that you are working with Alaji on this. I'm pretty sure Alaji will get you guys through from his colleagues. He's my junior at Hermitage High School, so I know how enforcing and how instrumental he is to assist you in this process. So yeah, but definitely that's a good one. So that's it for our very special program on this Prerogative of Mercy, and this bill, this child, this foundation, Malick Jallow's Foundation for Children bill on Prerogative of Mercy. So this is a great initiative, and I encourage Gambians to come up with such great initiative. Pro bono services are very good. I am a strong believer and strong supporter for the community. I have my own community organization. I just won the humanitarian award for my community work in West Africa Humanitarian Award last month, I believe, which is just it also shows that if you strive for the community, definitely you make changes in people's life, people will appreciate it. So I definitely thank you, Malick, for coming. And then anything you want to say before we close?
Well, what I can say is, we're all part of civil society, so you also play your part in driving home the necessary advocacy and awareness raising, so that the bill can go through. We are counting on you and your colleagues from that angle also. That is important. Winning hearts and minds is important, and to the extent that the bill is meant to advance the welfare of the population in general, I think we all have a stake to do whatever we can within our powers to actually push it through. I mean, you live in the US, you know that it might be a novelty here in the Gambia, but in the US, civil society are always lobbying lawmakers to effect changes in the law. They're always trying to help ignite debates or help ignite a vibe of law reform, etc., etc. So to the extent that we are trying to engineer something like that here, we're also counting on your support and counting on your goodwill as well as part of the civil society family to ensure that this very important bill goes through by the grace of God.
Very good. And what is the name of the bill again?
Is the Prerogative of Mercy Bill 2025, and it has already been introduced in Parliament. In fact, the first reading has been conducted already.
Okay. I'll do a follow-up on that, and I'll also add my voice there and of course, my support, like you said, and then
Certainly.
see if we can push that bill to really pass through the
I'll share the draft with you. I'll share a copy of the bill with you through Ousman, so that you can have a bite.
Okay, that would be great. I have
Yes.
your number, so I'll text you my email so you can send it to me. Definitely. Thank you so much for your time again. It is a wonderful really a wonderful engagement. My colleagues are engaged, of course, that's why they are not with us here, but I believe that we have almost spent an hour.
Yes, certainly. It's been quite an engaging conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have touched almost every angle. Perhaps I might forget something to ask, but hey, that's part of the human nature. So I definitely thank you for your time this wonderful Sunday, and definitely we'll catch up, some other time.
Thank you, Mr. Sawaneh, and my regards to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you to our audience as well. Take care.
Okay, thanks. Bye.